Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop, bringing you another show today. Man, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Obviously, it's January 23rd, but there's been a lot of stuff going on with Ohio State. I'm really surprised at all this stuff going on in the offseason, but it's one of the best off seasons I've ever seen the team have, honestly, so we got to talk about it. I want to get into a couple other things, too. I want to talk about C.J. Stroud and kind of his impact as an Ohio State football player and then in the NFL and kind of what he's doing with some donations that he's making to the Ohio State NIL. Super cool. Um, but let's go ahead and get into it, man. That's where I'm going to start out. I'm going to start with C.J. Stroud, and then I'm going to get into some of the changes Ohio State's making in this offseason. And on my last show, I projected the Ohio State defensive depth chart. So I'm going to kind of do the offensive depth chart today, kind of what I expect to see from them going into 2024. I'm sorry I haven't been putting out content as much as I claim that I will, as much as I want to. It's kind of the same thing, man. My kids, ever since winter break, I feel like they ain't had but like 2 days of school since winter break. They had 2 weeks off for that. Then they had like 2 days off on the week they went back, and then they've been having snow days because it's been too cold here in Ohio, I guess, to go to school. Yesterday, I was all set to go live, and then I got a call at 9 a.m. and my oldest son was roughhousing with his buddy in school and got pushed into a wall and got a concussion. Had a big old goose egg right here on his forehead. I'm like, all right, man, listen. So we got him checked out. He's good to go, though. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into some of this stuff here. So the first thing, like I said, I want to talk about C.J. Stroud. So C.J. Stroud just had probably the best rookie season for a quarterback that we've ever seen. And I mean, I don't know that for a fact that no quarterback has done what he's done, but I know that that's what I was hearing, and I'm not going back and looking. But regardless, 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, made it to the playoffs with the Texans, who I think won, like 3 games last year. I mean, just a phenomenal season, a phenomenal player, and a phenomenal human. I mean, I said before on my last show, there's nobody that I'm more proud for than CJ Stroud. Unfortunately for them, they ran into the buzzsaw that was the Baltimore Ravens. They're kind of firing on all cylinders right now. Just one of them teams that's going to be hard to beat no matter who you are, because they got Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level. Probably my favorite player in the league right now, for real. Lamar Jackson's a baller, and then that defense out there is nasty. Unfortunately, it's that that Baltimore Ravens Michigan tree defense. I hate to see that, but it is what it is, man. It's a really good defense, really good football team. C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans lost to them. Honestly, I mean, even C.J. Stroud didn't even have all his weapons either. That's not an excuse because it's the NFL. You kind of plug and play. But not having Noah Brown, not having Tank Dell, obviously is a big factor in games like that. But anyway, like I said, no one that I'm more proud of than C.J. Stroud. I'm more happy for. I just love what he's got going on. I love everything that he stands for. Every time he talks in front of the media, he's given all praise to God first and foremost. And I mean, I feel like that's something we kind of have missing in sports nowadays. I think I've said before on my show that like I want players to answer questions and not say that stuff first. But honestly, like what I'm seeing with CJ and his ability and the way that he carries himself, like I said, it's an A+ person. And then it came out yesterday from the foundation, the Ohio State's NIL group, that CJ Stroud is their first platinum donor. I don't know what platinum donor means, but I know that I heard that he's donated like 50,000, 100,000, something like that to the foundation to help Ohio State's NIL. And honestly, like I'm surprised that this doesn't happen more often with former players. But CJ Stroud is one of them guys, man. He's always giving credit to Ryan Day, to Ohio State. Every time he gets up on the podium, even now in the NFL, when they ask him a question, he's like, look, where I come from, the standard is high, and that's what we have to uphold. And I mean, from all his teammates, from all players in the NFL, it's just nothing but good things said about him. So shout out to CJ Stroud, man, what he's doing. I hope he's in for a long career because honestly, with the potential, he has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league for the next 15 years. If he can just stick with it and stick to his game, stay healthy, and just be himself like he has been. And hopefully Houston will continue building around him over there because that team has tons of potential. New head coach and all that good stuff. They don't lose kind of everything they got going on. You could see them in the Super Bowl in the upcoming years. So I don't know. Like I said, just wanted to give a little shout out to CJ Stroud and everything he's doing out in the NFL, what he's doing for Ohio State, all that good stuff. Another thing, Ohio State related, but not Ohio State football related. I don't know if you guys seen the Ohio State women's basketball team took on Iowa. Obviously, when you're talking about college basketball, especially on the women's side right now, one of the biggest names in college basketball is Caitlin Clark at Iowa. She's honestly probably one of the best female players I've ever seen play. But Ohio State just played them and they beat them. Ohio State won 192 in overtime. Um, Girl on Ohio State's team, Cody McMahon, was balling, scored 33 points. Caitlin Clark, she was balling too, scored 45 points. And then after the game, there was some shenanigans that went on. I guess the Ohio State fans rushed the court, and then Caitlin Clark was kind of running off the court, and she ran into a fan, and honestly, she flopped. People slowed the video down and show you what actually happened. She didn't get hurt. I don't think. I think she just was being a sore loser, which I mean, it's unfortunate to see that from someone who's like an icon of the sport right now. But I don't know, man. Hopefully, nothing ever comes to that, and there's not like rule changes with like court storm or anything like that because it was her fault. And I mean, if you're an athlete, like if I don't know if you guys haven't seen the video, check it out. It's probably on like Twitter or something. I would have got it for you, but it happened a couple days ago, so whatever it is, what it is. But she ran into a fan and flopped and made it look like she got hurt. Walked off the court like she was dying. I don't know, but anyway, that's a big win for Ohio State women's basketball, man. I mean, especially because the shot was sold out. I think they play in the shot. It was sold out because obviously the Caitlin Clark effect, and the Ohio State women's basketball team is really good. So if you get a chance, check them out. Absolutely. I do want to go ahead now dive into some of the Ohio State stuff, Ohio State football. The first thing I want to talk about this weekend or this past week has been just astronomical for Ohio State. They've made some big time moves that should help their team in 24 and going forward. The first move I want to talk about is Bill O'Brien. So I talked about this on my last show, but I don't think that he was hired yet when I talked about it. I want to talk about what Bill O'Brien brings to this team. And honestly, in my opinion, I think what he brings to this team is exactly what this team needs. I think Bill O'Brien brings an adult in the room. I think that he brings experience, and I think that he brings an attitude to this offense that they haven't had in years past. Ryan Day kind of built his staff with his friends and kind of guys who were happy to be there, guys who are big fans, are big fans of Ohio State. You look at guys like Brian Hartline, Keenan Bailey, Corey Dennis, Parker Fleming. All those guys are not really guys who cut their teeth somewhere else. Now, Brian Hartline obviously is doing what he's doing, so those kind of moves can work out. But when you have a guy in those positions that is not like excelling to a Ohio State standard, I would say maybe I don't know about Corey Dennis. That's one that I'm still on the fence about because everybody gives Ryan Day credit for the quarterback and for the offense. I don't know what kind of effect Corey Dennis had on that quarterback room. I think that Corey Dennis probably didn't get to play the quarterback that he wanted to play last year because I know that the Ohio State coaching staff took a vote for who should be the starting quarterback. Devin Brown won the vote. Kyle McCord still ended up starting. And I do believe that Corey Dennis was one of the guys who voted for Devin Brown, but I could be wrong about that. But Corey Dennis has now taken a step back role. Apparently, he's going to still be with Ohio State, but he's not going to be one of the 10 countable coaches, which I think is probably a good move for his career right now. I think that he was put into a situation where he was kind of never going to take the next step in his career. If you think about being the quarterback coach under Ryan Day gets all the credit, but then when something bad happens, people are going to look at you and be like, why is this guy your quarterback coach? And that's exactly what happened. Ryan Day was getting all the credit for Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, CJ Stroud. Now, obviously, Dwayne was before Corey Dennis at quarterback coach. But anyway, as soon as Kyle McCord happened, then people were looking at Corey Dennis, like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, what, you're not some experienced coach who's um, cut your teeth somewhere else and have a background for our quarterback to look like this. So, anyway, Bill O'Brien's coming into this room, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback coach. He's going to add to what Ryan Day is already doing with the quarterbacks. And then most of all, I just think that Bill O'Brien is going to bring an attitude, a toughness, and like a no bullshit mentality to this Ohio State offense that, like I said, they have not had in years past. And I think that the best players are going to play. This is a conversation that I've been having in a group chat with my buddies about, is Ohio State going to play games of like, okay, well, this person got the NIL deal. This person is the most experienced. We need to make sure that they play. I don't think that Bill O'Brien's going to let that happen. Now, obviously, the final call comes down to Ryan Day. So if Ryan Day wants to overrule him and probably mess up his locker room and his balance and his coaching staff, then okay. But I don't think that Ryan Day is going to do that. I think that he's ready to step back and actually let Bill O'Brien run this offense. So we'll see, man. I think that's a big time hire. A lot of people had a problem with it because Alabama fans didn't like him, and because he coached at New England and their offense was not great. New England's offense was not going to be great no matter who you put in that spot. They just don't have the talent out there to do that. They don't have a good quarterback. Zeke was their running back. Old Zeke was their running back. And then you look at Alabama, and I don't think that Bill O'Brien was the problem at Alabama. I really don't. They went from having a Heisman winning quarterback in 2021 and running back that ran for 1,500 yards that year to their offense not being as good in 2022. I think it was when he was there. Yeah, 20. Let me think about this. Yeah, it would have been okay. So in 22, their offense was not as good, but they lost a lot of their receiver production with Jamison Williams and Mechie, and they didn't replace that with guys who were as good as them, and that's just a simple fact. So I like the hire, man. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I think that if Ryan Day is trying to be real about taking the next step as a head coach, bringing in a guy like Bill O'Brien who has been a coach before. If you guys don't know, Bill O'Brien took over as the head coach for Penn State during all of their sanctions and all that good stuff from the Sandusky situation, and he honestly had them. In his second year, had a really good year there. He was the coach at the Houston Texans when Deshaun Watson was there. They were a really good team. I think made it to a Super Bowl. I could be wrong. I don't follow NFL a ton, but he kind of turned them around too. So I think that he can do wonders with this Ohio State team. And just like I said, man, bringing that no bullshit mentality is something that needed to be done. If it wasn't done, then Ohio State was probably adding all this talent and all this stuff for no reason because the offense looked lackadaisical last year. And I know some of that had to do with Kyle McCord, but honestly, like when you look at the receivers giving 100% effort, the tight ends giving 100% effort when they're trying to block, all that type of stuff, it was just not there. And even when Kyle McCord did make a good play, it could still result in a bad play because of that. And the run game, I think Bill O'Brien's going to help big time with that. I don't think that he's the type of guy who's going to be looking to do stretch to the boundary over and over again. You go back and watch Alabama in 2021 and 2022, kind of what their run philosophies were. And I like it. I love what they do. Having TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins is just going to be huge for that room. So I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments or in the chat. Do you think Bill O'Brien's a good hire? Because I personally think that it is. I think that it's kind of what Ohio State needed and what Ryan Day needed to take the next step as a head coach in college football and ultimately wherever he wants to go with his career. So a couple more big moves that Ohio State's making here. Ohio State was able to land Caleb Downs. Now this one is huge. This one is bigger than probably any move that Ohio State could have made. You're bringing in a top 3, 4, maybe top one defensive player in all of college football. I said on my last show when I was predicting Ohio State's defensive depth chart, I predicted Caleb Downs to be the starting deep safety, the role that Proctor played last year. I still think that's where he's going to be at, man. And they landed him. It was all signs were pointing towards Caleb Downs going to Georgia, and Ohio State was able to pull it off, man. I don't know. Go watch Caleb Downs play. If you don't believe me or if you haven't checked him out yet, that kid was a true freshman last year and was the best player on one of the best defenses in college football. And I mean, I don't know, man. He's undeniable. Guys like that are undeniable. You know, possibly he could have like a sophomore slump next year, but I don't see that happening with someone like Caleb Downs. He's someone who is 100% locked in on football. He's going to be an NFL player. He's going to be an NFL starter and an NFL star one day. So huge pickup by the Buckeyes. That one can't. It's hard to even put that one into words because he's just that good. It's a simple fact. I think that he's going to be a big difference maker. You're going from a guy like Josh Proctor, who was like a seventh year guy, still kind of took some bad angles sometimes, um, to a guy like Caleb Downs, who is young and is just a hell of a football player. He's good in coverage. He's good tackling. He's good against the run. He's a freak athlete. So I don't know, man. Caleb Downs, huge pickup by the Buckeyes. And then let me see here. Man, what's up with my internet been messing up? Last couple of times I went to stream, for some reason my internet's messing up. So if you're having some issues with the stream, I'm sorry about that, guys. But I'm gonna keep going here because it says that it's working. It just says it's a warning that it could mess up. So anyway, moving on from that, um, another pickup Ohio State was able to make was Julian Sayin. Now this one is a weird situation, right? Obviously Caleb Downs too, because Alabama losing Nick Saban kind of caused this to happen, and it opened up that 30-day transfer window. A guy like Julian Sayin, he was a true freshman. He was only on campus at Alabama for like 2 weeks, if that. And the word is that he wanted to come to Ohio State. He kind of put the word out. Him and his camp put the word out when he went in the portal that he wanted to come to Ohio State. And Ryan Day, there was word I think from Berm on the podcast that Ohio State was not going to allow this to happen. They were not going to accept his transfer because of the current quarterback room, which we got to talk about a little bit. You have Will Howard, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Air Noland, and now they're adding Julian Sayin. I mean, again, this is another kid who he's the number one quarterback in the class of 2024. He competed at the Elite 11 with the guys like Dylan Raiola, Air Noland, Jaden Daniels, whatever his name is, the guy that went to Michigan. And he won. He kind of won easily too. I feel like he took that competition by the horns, and everybody thought he was the best player on the field in that competition. And if you look back at Ryan Day and his track record, I know that this is kind of like, I know it's whatever. I mean, it's not 100% that this is going to happen, but if you look at the last two quarterbacks that Ryan Day had that won the Elite 11 award, or competed and won that competition, Justin Fields and C.J. Stroud are those two guys. So I think Ryan Day is going to do wonders with Julian Sayin. Now, to me, this doesn't really say anything bad about anyone in the quarterback room currently. I do want to talk about that a little bit because it's another conversation that's been an interesting one that I've been having with some of my buddies in a group chat. It's kind of how does this quarterback situation play out at Ohio State? To me, I think that you kind of have two different tiers of guys, and then you have Lincoln Keenholz in the middle. So I think that you have Will Howard, you have Devin Brown, possibly Lincoln Keenholz. I don't know if he's going to fit in the top group or the bottom group. That's why I kind of put him in the middle. You have Will Howard and Devin Brown, who right now they both know that 2024 is the year that they need to compete for the starting job, and they need to win the starting job. Sorry, I had to look at something real quick. They need to compete for the starting job. They need to win the starting job, or they're probably not going to ever play at Ohio State. Okay. And I think, Devin Brown was obviously the starter once Kyle McCord left. There's tons of smoke that Devin Brown was even better than Kyle McCord. Believe it, don't believe it. It doesn't matter. He was at least in competition with Kyle McCord. And Lincoln wasn't, but Lincoln was also a true freshman who didn't enroll early at Ohio State, was kind of running scout team all year. So I think that what happens this offseason is that unless one of the guys, the Lincoln, Air, or Julian Sayin, are like astronomically better and kind of take like a huge step and end up being the best quarterback on the team, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, that early in their career, I think that you have a quarterback battle between Devin Brown and Will Howard. Whoever wins that job will be the starter. Whoever loses that job will have to decide whether they want to stay and be the backup in case an injury happens or something like that, or if they want to hit the portal again, if you're Howard, or hit the portal for the first time if you're Devin Brown and try to go get some actual playing time somewhere. And then Lincoln Kienholz, like I said, he could factor into that depending on what kind of step that he takes, but I think he has a long way to go to get to that point. And then the other tier of guys that we're talking about here is the new guys coming in, Aaron Nolan and Julian Sand. I think both of those guys are just going to be there to develop under Ryan Day and develop under Ryan Day and Bill O'Brien. Now, if one of them is like just something unforeseeable happens and they're just that much better than everybody else, then they could end up being the starter. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that because true freshmen coming in trying to learn Ryan Day's system is not an easy thing. Even C.J. Stroud said that he had more on his plate at Ohio State than what the Texans were putting on his plate. So the Ryan Day offense is complicated. It does take a lot of knowledge, a lot of reps to learn it. So I don't expect those guys to start, but that quarterback battle between those two going into next year is going to be insane. And honestly, the room is stacked right now. I think that you will lose somebody in the spring, whether that be. I think it just depends on what happens, right? So like, you're gonna lose. I would say maybe two guys in the spring. Um, it's tough to say that because some people might just decide to stay, but I would imagine that the loser of the Devin Brown Will Howard quarterback battle will probably leave, especially if it's Will Howard, because he would be allowed to transfer again. I would imagine, and this is his last year in college, so I know it's gonna be tough to like if he were to leave and try to join another team and be the starter just coming in the spring. But if let's say Devin Brown does beat Will Howard out, kind of puts him in limbo in his last year of college. And then the same thing goes with Devin Brown. Will Howard really should win the quarterback battle because I think Will Howard is like what people expect Devin Brown to be. I expect Devin Brown to be like Will Howard, except for be more accurate and be a better passer as he continues to develop. But if Will Howard wins the job, Devin Brown absolutely could decide like, hey, I wanted to stick it out here, burn the boats, all that good stuff, but I have to be able to play because how am I ever gonna have a chance to play in the NFL if I don't actually play at Ohio State? So he could end up hitting the portal. And then the other person who I look at is Lincoln Kienholz. The way that I see Lincoln Kienholz hitting the portal is if Aaron Noland or Julian Sand jumps him on the depth chart. At that point, I think that he would kind of be like, okay, I need to go somewhere where I can actually play. He was the guy who was originally, I think, committed to Washington, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if Kalen DeBoer, the current coach at Alabama, was the coach at Washington when Lincoln was committed there. I believe he was. So maybe Alabama will be a place to look out for him if he decides to hit the portal. But again, I'm not gonna predict any of these guys to do it because you don't know how the quarterback battle is gonna play out. And I do think that Bill O'Brien will make sure that the quarterback battle is fair and that everyone kind of starts with a clean slate. And if um, you show him that you're the best player, that you're the one who has the best chance to win, I think that's the one that Ohio State will ultimately go with. So I'm excited for it, man. This spring game is going to be lit. I think if you haven't went to a spring game, which I haven't myself, so if you haven't went to one, this will be one to go to. Just go check out all these guys. You got Jeremiah Smith coming in, a class that is the number 2 class in the country, and then all these guys that came in from the transfer portal. So go check it out if you haven't, or if you haven't ever checked out a spring game. Absolutely check it out this year. So that was kind of it for the guys that they brought in. There was I think one more addition to the 2024 class, Dominic Kirk, excuse me, a guy from Ohio who was also committed to Washington. Guy who Ohio State needed to get on campus so they could offer him, and he did come, and they offered him, and he committed. He's like a 4-star, kind of a not sure what they're gonna do with him guy. He's gonna either be interior or a defensive end. I think he could be either. It just depends on what Ohio State wants to do with his body and with his frame. So that's more bodies, more talent to add to that 2024 class. which I think is already stacked with talent, both on offense and defense. So there's a lot of things to be excited about if you're an Ohio State fan right now. All right, moving on here. I did, like I said, I projected Ohio State's defensive depth chart on my last show. If you didn't check it out, go check it out. I'm going to project the offensive depth chart. The hardest part of this is going to probably be the offensive line, but I'm going to give it a shot just because. Why not? And I'll just go ahead and start. I'll start there, and then we'll do the quarterback. So starting with the offensive line, I'm going to go from left to right. I think the left tackle is going to be Josh Simmons. I think that he is a guy who has the potential to be like a first round pick. He has the athleticism. He just has to continue getting better. And we saw him develop in real time last year as the year went on. And then you're going to look at Donnie Jackson at left guard. Obviously, kind of your solid guy that he should be a leader on that offensive line. Um, I expect Seth McLaughlin, the transfer from Alabama, to win the center job. And just you're going from a guy who was a true sophomore with Carson Hinsman to a fifth-year player who has started 3 years at Alabama. And I think that will help solidify the offensive line and kind of get them ID'd right and blocking properly instead of just one or two guys making a mistake. When you have that leadership out there, it'll help. Right guard, I'm gonna go with Tegra Chabola. I think is how you say his name. Tegra Chabola, something like that. He's a guy who was a big time recruit coming into Ohio State, and he's honestly super athletic. He's a big kid. Every time I've seen him on the field, I love what he's doing. He played some against Missouri. If you didn't notice, when they brought in that big package where they had an extra lineman and a fullback, Tegra Chabola was out there throwing guys around. So I'm going to predict that he will be the starting right guard. Right tackle is probably the hardest one because I don't know if any of the guys that are on roster are ready. You have guys like Zen Mahovsky, you have Luke Montgomery, you have Josh Fryer who's still there. I don't expect to see Josh Fryer start another year at right tackle, but we'll see how it plays out. If I had to guess right now, I'm going to say it will either be Luke Montgomery or a transfer in the spring where Ohio State kind of goes out and gets a surefire starting right tackle. We'll just go with Luke Montgomery for now, though, because I think that he's ready to step in and play. They were doing a lot with him last year to try to get him into the game. So we'll go on from there. And then the starting quarterback, I'm going to go with the safe route here. I want to be a menace and say I think Devin Brown will win the job, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with the safe route and say Will Howard will win the job. He has tons of experience, tons of film. Fifth-year guy, big kid, and I mean, I'm just going to go with that for now. I think it's going to be a hell of a quarterback battle, though. I don't think Devin Brown's going to be like, oh, you're older than me, you played more than me, that means that you're going to start, because I personally believe that Devin Brown is a better passer, thrower of the football than Will Howard, but Will Howard is definitely more athletic. So anyway, we'll go with Will Howard as a starting quarterback. Running back, it's the 1-2 punch. Trey Quinshon Judkins, obviously, and I think Dallan Hayden is going to get some playing time this year. I don't think he redshirts. I think that he already redshirted, so he can't. I don't think that he just sits the bench. I think they actually give him some playing time because they're going to have to keep him around. And Dallan Hayden, I think, has the potential to be as good as like a TreVeyon Henderson or a Quinshon Judkins. Last year he had some issues with like pass pro and blocking when he needed to. So obviously he has to shore some of those things up. But in terms of running the football, I think Dallan Hayden is just as good as either one of those guys because every time he gets the football in his hands, he seems like he's making plays with it. I don't want to lose him, man. I know, if you can bring in a guy like Quinshon Judkins, you have to, but I don't want to lose Dallan Hayden either because I think that he's a big-time football player. And then moving on to the tight end position, this one's kind of a little hard, right? Because you have G. Scott, you have the guy Ohio State brought in from OU, what I think his name is Will Kachmarek, something like that. Kind of like a blocking tight end is what people are projecting him as. And then you have the young freak, Jelani Thurman. And honestly, man, I think Jelani's going to take over. I really do. Obviously, I think G. Scott will play a lot. If you're familiar with Bill O'Brien's offense, he does run a lot of two tight end sets, which I'm okay with as long as those guys are ready to play. I don't want to see two tight end sets. If I don't want you to take a one receiver off the field if your tight end is going to go out there and make mistakes, it's going to cost you. Like G. Scott is a guy who's known to go out there and make a blocking mistake or something like that. That can cost Ohio State. But I think that with him, another year of developing his body, another year of learning how to play tight end at Ohio State, G. Scott could be really good too. So I don't know. I'm gonna pick Jelani because I think that he has the frame, and I think that he has the ability to be like one of the best tight ends in the country. And if you go back and look at the Missouri game, if you get a chance, listen, I should have got this on video. Go back and watch them. Go on YouTube, type in Ohio State versus Missouri, whatever. Just watch the very first play of the game and watch Jelani Thurman, because he goes out. I think it's a linebacker he's blocking, and he blocks the dude all the way off the field to the sideline. And the play ends up not being, nothing happens on the play or whatever. But just watch him on that play specifically. His ability to move and get to the right spot to make blocks, combined with his long arms and his frame, is going to make him a problem with blocking and with catching the ball. So Jelani Thurman's my guy at tight end. And then the wide receivers, another hard one to predict, right? Because you have four guys who I think should be probably starters. You have Emeka Ibuka. He's coming back. Emeka is going to take one of the starting spots. The question is, does he play outside or does he play inside, or does he kind of move around and do both? Because you also have Carnell Tate, who played a lot last year. I expect him to take one of those starting spots, take that next step, and be that really good wide receiver that Ohio State is known for having. And then you have Brandon Ennis, another guy who he didn't play a ton last year. He didn't come in early like Carnell Tate did, so it's kind of to be expected. But I expect him to see a ton of playing time this year, kind of that slot build, that JSN type receiver. And I mean, the one catch that he had last year, he housed it against Purdue, from Devin Brown. So obviously there's just tons of potential with Brandon Ennis. And then you have guys coming in. Obviously I'm leaving out some guys off the depth chart, but Jeremiah Smith's going to want to come in and play. Mylan Graham, honestly, is going to want to come in and play. Both of those are 5-star. Well, I don't know what Mylan Graham is, but I think top 20 recruits, top 30 recruits in the country. Jeremiah Smith's the number one player in the country. And, there was a thing that came out yesterday that said Jeremiah Smith is sitting at 6'3.5" and 210 pounds already. I mean, that's college ready. That kid is ready to go. And you have to get him on the field. I think Ohio State will. I expect to see rotation from that wide receiver room this year because you just have that much talent that I don't think that the separation between your top three is going to be that massive from the next three. So you need to get those guys in the game and get them playing, man, because ultimately Ohio State needs to have guys ready if something does happen and someone were to get injured or something like that. Because you look back at the Georgia game, Ohio State really should have won that game, but they didn't have another wide receiver ready to step up and make a play when Marvin Harrison Jr. went out. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. and all those guys played the entire year and nobody else really got reps. So, all right, so that's it for my depth chart. I'm gonna wrap the show up here. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff if you guys enjoy the content. I'm gonna try to go daily, but like I said, man, my kids have not been going to school. I even have one home today, but it's my oldest one, so he kind of knows he can step away in his bedroom. But if my youngest son is here, the one with special needs, I could never try to do a show. He'd be in the background screaming, throwing stuff, acting a fool, being happy, but being crazy. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the show up here. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, if you enjoy the content, hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and come back for more. Hopefully daily, maybe every other day. We'll see how it works out. Peace out, guys, and you have a great day.